I know we talk a lot about women healing, but we really don't speak about men healing and the journey that they need to go on to really like be ready and to deal with the things that may have happened in their past. And so to me, like that becomes a big thing where they have really built up a wall and they are comfortable in their bubble or this space that, may just be them because it's quiet. I don't have to, some of the things I've heard, I don't have to have someone yelling, nagging at me. All I got to worry about myself. And some men actually enjoy that. And so to get back into something where they don't know it may be good at first, but to really like connect and marriage, that's a whole nother story because you don't know who you're going to get. The dating person that some women put out is not the same person that they will marry.
Hi, I'm Clarissa from Love Fearlessly. I want to tell you about the products we create with faith and purpose in mind. At Love Fearlessly, we design biblical affirmation cards, journals, and wall art to encourage you and keep God's promises front and center in your life. These are more than just beautiful items, they're tools to help you stay rooted in Scripture, speak life over yourself, and create an atmosphere of faith in your home. Whether you're starting your day with affirmations, journaling your prayers, or decorating your space with God's truths, our products are here to remind you that His love and promises never fail. So if you're ready to bring more faith and encouragement into your daily life, check us out. At Love Fearlessly, we're here to help you live boldly in God's love.
What's up, Bravehearts community? This is Sean Heineman, your premier pre-engagement coach, back with another segment of It's Scary to Remarry, inspiring you to love fearlessly with my co-host, Aquila Maddox. What's up, Q? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Sean?
I am good. I see you looking all pretty. Gotcha.
I appreciate it.
For
But
real.
look, I'm looking forward to us getting into today's conversation with our special guest. Could you tell us about our guest today?
Yes, for sure. I met today's guest. We were at a conference at a vending event. I forgot the name again, but it was great. And here's the thing, my wife, when she tell me things, I'll be listening, right? And they were at the table behind us. And so my wife was like, you have to talk to her. You have to. And I was like, okay. And I got it, and I see everything that she had and the books and everything. But anyway, that's another show for another time. Let me talk about today's guest. Today's guest is a mental health advocate, an occupational therapist with over 23 years of experience empowering women, youth, and families to lead resilient, purpose-driven lives. She is the founder of Boys Matter to Men Mentorship and CEO of Remember You Matter Coaching, a certified life and executive coach, international TEDx speaker, and author of 14 books. Bravehearts community, let's show some love to Dr. Elizabeth Jennings. How are you doing this evening?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for the invite and super excited to be here and dive into this conversation.
Yes.
Yes, for sure. Because, and we could talk about the books and stuff like that as well. But this topic about why is it hard for modern women to find a suitable spouse or a suitable mate, like what were your initial thoughts when we when we inboxed each other on that topic? What were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, like I saw the list of what's like out there and what's popular, and that one just like registered for me because it's kind of where I'm at, been at for maybe 10 years. And so just to have some dialogue and discussion around it, yeah, I think would be helpful. I know I'm not the only one in this boat when I talk to other women about, how things are. So super excited to just kind of dive into the conversation and hear both perspective. And now we have three people to kind of chime in on. So yeah.
That's
Yes,
awesome, though.
for
I like
sure.
I like a person who has the ability to see themselves and then speak from that lens of being relatable. You know what I mean? It's and you help other people feel like, that their points of view is relative. You know what I mean? Like this isn't just an anomaly. Like,
Yeah, this
Yeah, I'm pretty authentic. So
I love it.
we're gonna bring the truth.
Then I'm
Okay.
ready for
No
then I'm
worries.
already ready for it, okay?
Awesome. Well, if you have questions for today's guest, as you can see the topic, make sure you leave your comments below. We'd love to hear from you all, but we're going to jump into this, Dr. Elizabeth. Can you share a pivotal moment in your own journey that shaped your perspective on marriage?
Yeah, so my background is I was married for 17 years, dated that same person for about 25 years. And so my pivotal moment actually came during my marriage. And it's kind of a personal situation, but it is when I thought about or think about that question, it's probably one of the strongest things that really like put me on a different trajectory in regards to understanding myself and the journey that I have actually been on. So I like to tell stories. So this is one where my mother, who I love with all my heart, died with cancer in 2015. And so this story actually relates to me being married during this time period, kind of back and forth with my husband. It was one of those where I was the type of wife who really believed in trying to hold a marriage together, and doing whatever I could to make that possible. For me, it was something connected to my mom where I didn't want her to think that I was failing in the marriage, even though things weren't really right at that moment. And when my mom passed away, there was something within me that I started to like disconnect from also. Anyway, my we were getting ready for the funeral, and my ex-husband was military and had came. We had brought him through the Red Cross because he was away, and I picked him up. And the very first thing he said when he got in the car was, "I'm not here for you. I'm here to show my respects to your mom." And so that became the pivotal moment to me where I could no longer like hold on to something. I kind of saw the truth, if that makes sense, what love looks like, and when you should have someone who is there for you at one of your like lowest points. And for me, when I saw that, it really opened my eyes to what I had been kind of dealing with. And it really put me on a journey of really understanding what self-love was. It put me on a journey of emotional healing, and truly learning to be authentic with myself and what I could and could not no longer take in my life.
Mm.
Understand. Understand. What can I add? Oh, well, so you were saying that that moment that was inside of the marriage?
Yes,
Okay. So it was in that moment that you were inside of a marriage, but like without the covering of the marriage, if you will. Mm,
without the covering, without the
mhm,
safety,
mhm.
without the, to me, that's not what love is.
Yeah.
If
Mhm.
at that moment, so to me, there was a lot of things that were revealed in that moment that I needed to kind of accept. So yes,
But I wanted to ask you, thank you, first of all, for sharing that,
yeah.
sharing your experience. For one, I can relate to, and I've shared like my drive for, in some cases, being in something or staying in something. It was usually tied to me trying to make the church proud, growing up real religious and stuff, and not apologizing for it, but learning how to, have a healthy aspect of that. So similar to like us having a healthy aspect to our parents being proud, because sometimes people stay in careers, relationships, and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with us wanting to make those whom we care for proud. But I do believe that there are times that presents an unauthentic, if that's the word, version of aspiration. So I'm aspiring towards something that's not genuinely what I really want to do anymore or whatever, or not being realistic with the change because we don't pivot, you know what I mean? Where we probably owe it to ourselves. So I definitely can say that I understand. In comparison to now, I mean, to back then, and getting to know and things like that. How has the dating culture changed over the years? And then that's one. And then what impact do you think that that has on marriage-minded women today?
Yeah, so when I think about that time period, I was young when I was dating previously. Like I said, I was in a marriage for 17 years. So I started dating my ex when I was about 14 years old. And so when I divorced, which was actually probably 6 months after my mom passed away, is when my divorce was final. I started dating like immediately after that. And so that was a nice, it was nice because the people like who referred, I put it referred. Everyone had to scan who would come my way because the people are very protective of me. And so they were like, this is someone, who would probably be good for you. And so I trusted to kind of get back into dating, feel at that point. And that experience was good. Like I learned about friendship. I learned about just being open to myself. I had a year of like really being able to like explore who I was, just things that I hadn't done before. At some point, that one did kind of come to a halt. I made a decision that it wasn't going in the right way. I am marriage minded. And so I realized that not everyone is. And to me, that might have been the biggest like aha moment, which is kind of actually halted my dating because I know who I am. The reason why, I got married when I was 19 is because I've always been the type of person where I know I was created to be a wife, and that's the energy I put out. And so I don't want to just like be strung along with someone who doesn't have that intention. I don't really like just dating around for the sake of dating if someone doesn't have a mindset of going in that direction. And so I just had to make a like personal and a spiritual as I started to get to know myself and understand who I am and accept that instead of compromising and just like, being like going along the flow with certain people who weren't ready, that I would just wait until God sent me that person who was ready and where it felt right. So I haven't dated probably like seriously in about I would say six years or so.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you wouldn't be able to technically attest to the code to the to certain specifics, or would you say you wouldn't be able to attest to like some
So
of the
what I've seen, I have like been open.
okay.
So I've tried the dating apps, but I'm very, like I said, very particular. And if someone for me, like I want to like be friends with someone for a while before we actually like go on a first date. I want to get to know you. I want to talk to you. And not everyone has the patience and the ability to kind of slow things to that degree. I'm also someone who, just knowing me, I like being courted, and that's not something we see. Like I am one who like open doors and just like an old-fashioned type, I think
Chivalry,
is what I
yeah.
would call it, because these days when I see it, it doesn't look like that, right? Everyone is so like fast, soon, it's not let me pick you up or that. It's very different. And so for me, those are things that I look for. And so when I don't see it, it doesn't really go past that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that would be definitely how the culture has changed in some ways because I think what I've learned is that because I'm in a similar boat, but I have dated. So within the last 6 years, but I do believe that that portion has evolved to the point where a lot of people are time wasters. So I think the ability to, because I'm with you, like when I got divorced and I just wanted to be like, can we just be friends first? Because it's what I'm used to. It's a safe place, it's a good foundation as well.
Yeah.
I feel like people show up more authentic when you feel like there's no real impressing that you have to do and things. But there's a place for being impressed too. I think there's a place for people to bring their A game and all of the things, right? But I think that because unfortunately, what I've realized today, why a lot of people skip past wanting to be friends is because for some people it's not genuine.
Hmm.
For some people, we live in it, we do. The culture has changed to the point where, there was a time that I would, like you say, you be friends, you get to know, and then you figure out, you're like, you know what, I think we want to take this to the next level. There were people who will sit you in that friend zone place and look like they're increasing the, relationship, expectations. and nothing has changed. Oh, we still friends. You're like, wait, what? So I
Right.
believe that,
Exactly.
and I think that's where the word or the term situationship started to kind of derive from, um, because and then I've even found it's so funny because I've gone on dates, prior where a lot of guys will be like, "Can you just go with the flow?" That used to aggravate me, but I do understand now why. Again, culture changes. So for the reason I understand it, I don't, is because we're all now like, we need to know what you stand for at the door. Do you want to be married, and is that your end goal? But in the same regard, it's some of the men feeling like how we feel. They want to kind of just get to know and figure it out, right? Well, because we've also experienced time wasters. We come into the table like, I need you to tell me what's your end goal, what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? So some of that, it muddies up the ability to walk through that process of like friends and getting to know each other and stuff like that. But in your own personal viewpoint, would you say that it has impacted, the way in being marriage minded at all? Does it change any of that for you?
Um, no, not it doesn't. What I've also noticed, just to add, one other thing that has really like had me be very watchful is people some men aren't very honest, meaning they aren't really single. Like some of them are still married or separated, and you don't learn that until later on. And that's the part with the new that really kind of got to me, to where you do have to like do a background check or a little search to find out like all this before you even. And what I would find out when I was like doing some of the dating apps and stuff like that was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I at least like did that before even trying. That's when I said I started like pulling away, because it was like, wait a minute, the person you're representing is not truly what's behind the surface. And had I not, then, and so that part became a little like, wait a minute, it's not I can just like go to the meet someone and exchange numbers and expect it to be we're both like honestly in the same, or willing to be honest with each other. And so I think that has been something else that has not necessarily stopped me from being marriage minded, but the whole dating process of it. But as far as like marriage goes, like I am still very hopeful. I'm still excited about the idea. What I've learned, and this is where some of my books and other things that I've written, I have still been living, if that makes sense. And so, through my nonprofit, I actually work with men, and pair them with boys in our community. And so, what I've learned is my friendships with the men, whether they're married, I've seen some very like standoffish, respectful guys, and the way they treat their wives wonderfully. Like, the women don't have to worry about me, but it's one of those where those have become very prosperous friendships. And that has really, I think, filled an area where I'm not lonely, because if I need to have a conversation, I trust there's a lot of mutual respect. And all those things are necessary to be marriage minded moving forward. I feel like when the right person comes, it will, my heart is already open, prepared, ready. It's at a really amazing space. And so, that's going to be a lucky man. And, it'll work out really well when that time comes. So,
I know that's right. I love it. I
but
love
I
it.
do find when it comes to other women that, because I actually wrote a book, Single, Successful, and Satisfied. And it's like Amazon #1 bestseller. And I teach a class on it, because what I notice is that a lot of women get discouraged when it has been a while and they haven't found that man. And they're just like, oh, where is he? And, kind of thirsty, maybe. I think that's the word we kind of use, whatever. And just learning how to satisfy those empty places, in more positive ways, whether it's career, hobby, traveling. Those are really things that I think can help sustain the modern women as we're in this pool of dating also.
Yeah, I would agree.
Dr. Elizabeth, what do you think? Because obviously you see men with the mentoring program, and you've been doing it for a while. Where's the disconnect with men? Do you think men maybe not want to be marriage minded, or like what do you think where's the disconnect? Because back in the day, it was like people wanted to get married, but now it just seems like a lot of guys aren't interested. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of men, and I'm a strong advocate for men also. Through my healing, I've learned to like speak up for them too.
Mhm.
I feel a lot of men have been hurt. I feel like, we can, a lot of things have happened to women, but also things have happened to men when it comes to the ones who have been open, the ones who have given their hearts. It's been abandoned, it's been stepped on, they've been betrayed. If a divorce happens, there's a lot of women who go after a lot of things, and that man becomes like stripped down. And so, whether that person wants to like re-engage and trust someone, it takes time. And some people have done the work, but not everyone has in regards to counseling or really healing. I know we talk a lot about women healing, but we really don't speak about men healing and the journey that they need to go on to really like be ready and to deal with the things that may have happened in their past. And so to me, like that becomes a big thing where they have really built up a wall and they are comfortable in their bubble or this space that, may just be them because it's quiet. I don't have to, some of the things I've heard, I don't have to have someone yelling, nagging at me. All I got to worry about myself. And some men actually enjoy that. And so to get back into something where they don't know it may be good at first, but to really like connect and marriage, that's a whole nother story because you don't know who you're going to get. The dating person that some women put out is not the same person that they will marry. And so that I think is something that we see on both ends. And so it deserves respect and conversation openness on both sides also.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
because I posted a video, interviewed someone a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about a man over 40 who was never married or have kids. She's like, something's wrong with this picture. And I was just like, wow. But and the video went crazy. It's like almost at 200,000 something views. And there were a lot of men like, yeah, I never married or I never had kids.
I've dated several of them. I don't think that I don't, when I talk to the guys that I've talked to, I don't think it's all of them don't want to be married. I think that unfortunately some of their view of marriage has also been skewed, or it creates this distance where it's not something they have to rush and be urgent for. I had talked to one guy who was over 40 and no children. And he was saying, and he was, definitely career driven, but he was like talking about his circle and how unfortunately there are some men, while we think about we're the only ones who sit in a marriage where we're not happy or not satisfied, or we feel the pressure of trying to make somebody proud, and we're seeing that what we may have judged and thought was a good fit when we were 19 years old, because I got married at 18, so I definitely understand. But who I am today at 43 years old, divorced and having children, and still a person who has faith and believe in the Lord and things like that, and having a career and a purpose. And I met my husband my then husband when I was 16. When I tell you I overstand you, like I knew and still know that I am meant, and Sean knows I does not just desire, I'm wired to be a wife. Like I'm wired to support a husband, multitask, because I'm purpose driven. Don't get it twisted. I'm gonna still do my things, like, and will still be a housewife while I'm flipping money. Don't play like flipping some type of business.
Exactly.
Like that's who I am. And find joy doing it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And my day might be long, but when I laid my head in my bed next to my husband after doing hair, I ran a daycare business, taking care of our family, fixing the dinner, making sure he had what he needs to go to work for the day, and could still go do grocery shopping at night while he's probably watching his favorite show or game, come home. And when we got to lay our head on the bed, I felt so accomplished and fulfilled in doing what I do. That's me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now, I make no apology for it. And despite experiences that have been less than favorable, I ain't changing my narrative for nobody.
I hear you.
So, but what I learned is that yes, women are taught different because we are. I was groomed to be a wife, talked about the value of it, blah, blah, blah. Some men talk about how that wasn't the conversation around them. So that makes it challenging to aspire towards something that there was really not a whole lot of talk about. Number two, men sit in relationships that they're not happy and content in either, and then they go share it with their male friend group. And some of them jokers are single. And then they turning around talking about, well, why do I want to be in that? Because I'm happy, at least like you just talked about. I'm at peace. Right, Elizabeth? You was like, they said they at peace. They ain't got some woman nagging in them. And you're hearing the stories by way of their personal relationships, right?
Yeah.
But then on top of that, it's also some of the, I tell people all the time, I see some of the women that's turning men away. Some of these heifers is weird. Some of the things that they, that we had a whole debacle about the cheesecake factory
Yeah,
and
that was
how it's an inappropriate place for a date, right?
yeah.
We've got people, we got some of the stuff that the women say some of the stuff that the women say on social media that unfortunately, whether we think so or not, man, it's representing the female species. Like, and I don't like it. It's misrepresentation because it's not everybody, but it's a thing. So I don't think that it's always men just don't want to be married. I think they're approaching with caution just like we are in
Mm,
their own ways. And they're preserving themselves because another thing this man said, he was a firefighter, very successful, had his own home, all the things. And he said, do you know that a lot of my friends are in circumstances where women have literally just kind of put them in that position to get child support? This is this man's fear that his consideration about having a baby, instead of it being a moment of joy and partnership, for some people, it's a plot and a ploy. Like, I want to get a man, make sure he got a good job, and then we get pregnant, and you get to keep the baby and take this, get this man's. These conversations,
wow.
they're discouraging, I think, for some of the males.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's real. Um, yeah, because that's a conversation right there. I know the comments gonna go crazy, but let's be respectful. Uh, how, Dr. Elizabeth, how can women balance independence with the desire for partnership?
Yeah. You know, I think at times, when a woman is like independent and has her house and her car and looks like she has it all together, it's empowering, but I always have to look at like the flip side of what a man sees, right? On one end, I think he that's admired, but on the other hand, I think there is that question, what role do I have or what can I bring to the table if all this is already in play with that? The message I would love for a man to understand is when a woman has gotten to the point to get herself together, it has really just her being whole in who she is, right? And the beauty of that is when you can kind of step in and not be intimidated, but still like be the whole you, approaching this person, you realize it's a beauty to have someone that's already whole because I can bring my whole self to this person whole self and we can just like really rock it together. We can find our strengths, we can see what's next, we can dream about how we can build and grow together. And to me, that's what partnership is. Like, I truly desire partnership. There's a lot of things I do in the world, but for me, I can't fix everything that needs to be fixed. I still love, someone to tell me, sit yourself down. You've been like working too much. Like, let me submit to that, and take a rest, but currently it's me like not doing that and not having that. So to me, those are the things that's what partnership looks like. Someone looking out for you, someone working with you, someone building with you so that you're able to like have like passions, like conversations, spiritually connecting, all that is what that looks like. So yes, I wholly believe you can be independent, embracing all that and still have a whole bunch of room available for that partnership to come in to really like, accentuate what's already have been created by both of you.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's good.
gotta have the teamwork because Aquila, I know you big on teamwork, and I mean, I've seen videos you putting living rooms together. You
Mhm.
building all kind of stuff. Aquila,
Mhm. I love
you
it.
can build houses and everything.
I
So
love it.
talk
Mhm.
about partnership. I don't even imagine.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think, unfortunately, you know what I've learned too, Sean and Elizabeth, is that some people have muddied the word partnership.
Mm,
We live in a world, y'all, where I'm learning that all the beautiful things that I heard growing up, people have really attached a negative or a condescending viewpoint to that thing. And like I've even heard, and the thing is they can trend anything. People will trend anything. They'll throw anything as a trend. I don't want partnership. I want the head of a household. Ooh, I don't. I'm, I'm, oh, because I really think they can be one and the same. Like you can still be a partner and have a man who's the head of a household. Because no matter what that partnership dynamic looks like, it's people working together. We're coming together with a common goal. And that common goal in the partnership, outside of having your own individual unique purposes, we're trying to advance this family and leave a legacy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And so, but I heard people say, I don't want a partnership because in their world, they've created a definition that partnership means 50-50, where that conversation gets annoying. But I'm just like, partnership means you're working together. Like this is crazy. So you'd be surprised that and then this is the stuff, unfortunately, Elizabeth, that we become up against. Sean got out the game, so he ain't tortured no more. You know what I mean? Doesn't have to be tortured with some of the craziness out of here. God bless you and your beautiful wife. Amen. That y'all ain't out here in the streets, but in the streets, amen. They are. They're wilding out here. They're wilding. You know what I mean? And then if you say independent, meaning your ability to still manage certain things outside, because you want to do that. You want to be able to function. That, when you turn your back or you go on vacation or he does whatever he's doing, I can still do things, you know.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong with a level of independence allowing us to still advance this family, you know. But unfortunately, that's been muddied. When people think about the Proverbs 31 woman, I'm like, what are y'all getting at? Because homegirl did all the things,
Yeah.
had a team supporting her while she's supporting family. Where's y'all, what is your reference point when it comes to some of these ideas around a woman and marriage or a husband and a man, you know what I'm saying? So I think we just keep on praying, girls.
Yeah, because for men, and the funny thing about it is, men, when it comes to the dating pool, and this is just my opinion, I believe men have it easier than women. Which to me, I'm trying to figure out like why aren't more men wifed up, you know? Because and I told you this before, Q. If I was single, I could find me a wife like that.
You could. Now, whether or not she turned crazy later might be another story. You know what I mean? I'm serious. Like some of the people today that I'm even like you said, being in a space where I'm having these various conversations, not with just people I'm personally dating, but just people that I get to interview or talk to and learn from. It's a conversation that, like you said, I think we do a really good job in this world and culture expressing the voice of the woman
Hmm.
and talking about what she needs, what she's lacking, how she needs a man to show up in her life and things like that. And I think to your, appreciation and people who do the work that you do, I don't consider myself a male advocate, but having coached married couples and things like that and been able to be an intercessor on behalf of couples, being unbiased is a requirement. So I have men that I have the ability to speak on their behalf where they can't put words to certain things.
yeah,
But I believe that there is a place and a necessity for women like yourself or people like yourself who can speak in favor of and not just against the male perspective because the male perspective exists.
yeah,
And I don't think that there's a lot of times where we just really get to sit in the reality of that. They
yeah,
have a perspective. And that perspective is not, like I said, just like one-sided where they're like, I don't want to be married. They're like, no, let me talk up to you about the 5 women that I dated. I had a guy that I met and he told me, he said, Aquila, a lady, we went on a date and she decided to invite me up for a nightcap, and he was like, that wasn't even my plan. I'm dropping her off at her home. I'm about to go my separate way. She was like, "Well, do you want to come up?" And he was like, "Well, I didn't plan on, that. So I mean, whatever you're comfortable with." He's like, "Well, yeah, she was like, let's just go up, we could chat or whatever." So they start talking. He said she started undressing. He said, I didn't. He's like, I'm like, whoa. And she said, I already know what you want. It's just gonna be $1,000.
Mm.
And he said, first of all, I thought we were trying to get to know each other. Second of all, I'm not paying. I didn't come here for this. This
Right.
is the real. And hold on, y'all. This was like 3 years
Crazy.
ago. This was like 3 years ago.
So this was a date, and
A
so
date.
so they went upstairs. She took her clothes off and told him it was going to be $1,000.
And this is what you want. And he was like, actually, it wasn't. It was because I wasn't planning on coming upstairs, being in your personal space. I was literally driving off.
Wow. It's,
I'm like, what you said, why? That's what I said. Wow.
yeah,
And
yeah,
imagine if he has, okay, I dated a guy, meaning went on a date with another guy, older gentleman, lived out of state, and he was telling me he was dating this, meaning the girl he dated, woman he was getting to know and was dating, lived out of state. And he was like, I was flying her in, getting her a hotel. She told me what her demands were. I want to stay at the Westin or the W, whatever, right? Or Ritz-Carlton, whatever. Like he's like, I did everything she asked me to do. She said she had a conversation with her friend, and her best friend told her, no, you're the woman. He should be coming to you. And after everything was non-canceled, like you weren't able to cancel, she canceled and he lost his money.
those
So
stories.
all of that to say, y'all, I feel like when I hear these stories, unfortunately, I'll be like, I see why y'all, they want to move slow sometimes, but their slow is I want to get to know multiple people because there's probably somebody cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs underneath this.
Yeah,
Normal is the anomaly, y'all.
yeah, that's great. The comments are going crazy. Mental Dialogue, shout out to him. He said it wasn't called a partnership back in the day, or say black in the day. So not sure what she means when she says the definition has been muddy. We never heard the word independence used the way she is using it. And Major Move Chris says the heart is the second brain. It consists of the subconscious and will. Mental Dialogue says partnership and independence are modern words. What do you think about that,
I,
Dr. Elizabeth?
yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I think so too. I don't think that's how we talked about relationships like in the past. Like, I think we talked about love, and I think we've said a lot up to this point, and we really haven't talked about love. To me, that's what relationships like used to be.
Mhm.
But I think there's something else that we'll kind of share. I think there was another question
Mhm.
in regards to like mindset shift, and what type of mindset is necessary to have a successful relationship. I still do believe in love, but I think the change has been that it's not enough for a successful marriage. Like I think back in the days, a lot of us, I love you, you love me, let's get married, let's have a family, and da 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 da. It doesn't look like that anymore. Even when you're married, like love may not be enough when it comes to it's a good component to have, but there's so many other components of it. And I think these other modern words have been built around because divorce is so like quickly so ready available. People will get married and within very quickly be done with it. The ability to like work things out, the ability to like talk through, some of those have the open communication, open dialogue. To me, those are words that also should be a part of the conversation. We talked about dating and evolving and even being more modern with it. Like I don't remember hearing those words as often either, about the importance of communication, the importance of it was really like love, marriage, da da da, and it was very, and there wasn't a lot of conversation. And so because I think there's so many things happen and people are realizing they don't have to stay stuck in a toxic situation or in a marriage that isn't very healthy for them. You have those side, and then you have some who give up real quick with the process of it. And so it really is like redefining to me like what your purpose is for wanting to get married. What does that look like to you? It's one thing to be marriage minded, but really like what does marriage mean to you? Like there's so much underneath that, and to really have the time and the conversation and talk about what that means. To me, that's where a big focus should be as you're trying to move forward or learn if this is the right thing or not.
Mhm. And I would say in regards to that too, when you say a modern word, in what era do we consider modern? Because being 43 years old, I've heard the word partner in my past life. Now, if you are a person who's probably 60 or 50, I don't know, I can't speak to that. But in my household, the word partner was a big thing. And in fact, it was actually something that in the event when with my parents, because my parents ended up getting a divorce, but much later in life, but they split up. And one of the complaints or one of the things that they talked about was needing the partnership from each other. And when I say muddying it up is because there is a positive aspect to partnership, and there is now a negative connotation that I feel that people are unfortunately associating with that. And to your point, partnership definitely has a place because of the fact that, like you said, so many relationships were built on just love alone. And if that person was in love and one person and both of these people were not purposeful, right? To be fruitful and to multiply, you require partnership. If you're working on a farm and I'm putting in seeds and tilling the ground and doing all of these things, the reality is that if you're sitting by watching me do all of this work and talking about I love you, that can build resentment in the person who's doing the work. And there's not enough people sharing in that task. Also, being a person who believes in the fact that being unequally yoked means a yoke is this contraption that goes across two oxen. The oxen is a pair is partners. So when they are working together again to do this plowing in the earth, that's a partnership. But if you have it unequal, where one person is maybe immature, because it's not based on just strength alone. If you got an immature oxen with a mature oxen who's familiar with the task, who understands what the assignment is for them collectively, and then you got one trying to divert and go its own direction, then that's an unhealthy relation. That's an unhealthy partnership and dynamic that at some point is going to become a burden to one or the other. So while I can't, I don't want to argue whether or not it's and how modern the word is. I can understand that it may not have been something that us as a culture has always known, but I do believe we do have a place to say, hey, what we've been doing, there are certain aspects to this that may need to evolve and that may need to work out. And there has been several people that I've come across that have gotten tired of doing majority or all of the things, whether that's a man or a woman. Because I met a man who was like, I did everything. I paid all the bills, and then I could barely come home and get a meal. I don't care what aspect or dynamic of partnership you are looking for as an individual. At some point, that can be tiring. And I think of it like a bank. You know what I mean? Sometimes we have to be willing to sow, and not sometimes we are. We're signing up to sow. Love is not self-seeking. We're signing up to sow. And then but if some people are cashing out and cashing out and cashing out all the time and they've never given anything, I don't care how much love you got packed inside of your bank. At some point, you're overdrawing.
I agree. That's what I thought. I ask people, I say, are you making more deposits or withdrawals in your relationship? I think that's very important. Because there's been times, I'll be on the struggle bus and I got $17 in my account. I can't pull 20.
Do you hear? You better tell them. You better tell them.
You know what I'm saying? I've been on the struggle bus before. So I'm like, so I think about that. I'm like, oh, I need to make some more deposits in my marriage for real.
And
But
that, hold on real quick, since you said that. And that's what a struggle bus relationship look like.
yep, exactly. Exactly. I see you laughing over there, Dr. Elizabeth. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think the importance of understanding that it has to be mutual with deposits, give and take, all those things are kind of necessary and important when it comes to things. I think there is some mindset of some women who look for a man to completely to take care of them, or a man who, looks for a woman to completely cater to him. But learning like that give and take, right? It's a necessary thing. And, it's a beautiful thing when it is in alignment and there is balance between that. And so, yeah, I think that's how I feel on that end.
Yeah, for sure. Mental dialogue says, and he says, in the past, define roles over partnership. In the past, define roles over partnership and interdependence were the words. She suggested that we as men look at independent women as whole, but we don't because we only want to see where we fit. Um, I hear you, mental dialogue. I hear you. He's a good brother. Me and him have done some work before in the past. I want to, because this has been a heavy episode. I want to take a quick break from our sponsor, from Love Fearlessly Intimacy Card deck that my wife and I created. The cool thing about this deck is you have a husband and wife who put their heads together to make this 30 set card work. So if you want to know someone on a date, whether if it's your spouse or your significant other, you just people are always evolving. So it's good to ask these
Mhm.
questions. You can ask yourself, I didn't know that about you. You never told me. So this is what this Love Fearlessly Intimacy deck card is for. Dr. Elizabeth, I want to pull a card from the deck and ask you a question.
Okay, let's see.
You ready? We're,
I'm
we're gonna
game.
we're gonna play it safe because there's some cards in here. We're gonna play it safe.
You
Okay.
didn't you didn't pre-sort the deck.
Yeah, yeah, we're not. Yeah, we're gonna say that one. No, no, we'll say that one. Uh,
Awesome.
Question: Who provided a safe space for your feelings in childhood?
That's a good question. Honestly, I didn't have it. I kept a lot in. I realized that in adulthood. Um, and so for me, because I met my ex when I was young, that became that safe space at that point. So yeah.
Mhm. Understood. Understood. Yeah, so that's a card from the intimacy card deck. So you can check that out at scaredtoremarry.com and the comment section. I mean, in the description below. And we kind of discussed the mindset shifts are
Yeah.
necessary for women. We kind of talked about that, right? Or was there anything else that you want to cover from that, Dr. Elizabeth?
I think it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so what advice would you give to women who feel like giving up on love and marriage?
Yeah, great question. So I think you have to like definitely for sure like do your own work, right? And redefine what you're looking for when it comes to marriage. If you're looking, like we said, for someone to make you happy, for someone to, give you all of this, a lot of those things you have to learn for yourself at first. And so to me, the biggest advice is truly like getting to know like who you are, how do you, what makes you happy, and how can you enjoy those moments within yourself. If you can do that, then when you come into a place of a marriage, you're not seeking that person to like do everything for you. And, if you have those moments where you're needing something, you're not like clinging on to that person to be that, to put all that weight on. Like it's unrealistic. It's only going to disappoint you. Yay, it may work for a little while because we have these like love, air pockets that we have. But once that air pocket like busts and life kind of sits in, you have to be able to know how to make you happy. You have to know how to express your feelings in a healthy way. And yes, it's nice to have someone to do that too, but you need to like have, like, I think that question was great. You have to have safe people that you can, like, whether it's your journal, whether it's a professional, be outside because you never know like when tension revs up what that's going to look like. And so to me, it's redefining, what we're looking for when we think about marriage, thinking about beyond, of course, the
Mhm.
ceremony and the title, and these unrealistic expectations, but really have these deep conversation on what this is, the positive, the struggles that may come into it, and really taking the time to do the work beforehand before jumping into something, and being disappointed along the way.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And the question, my wife and I, when we came up with the question from the intimacy card deck, we had a whole conversation about this because uh, me growing up, and Aquila, you know about this. I grew up in that era of children should be seen and not heard. And when I came up with this question, it stifled me in my adulthood growing up because I didn't have a safe space for anyone.
Mhm.
So when I became, or even when I started dating, like as early as 16, 17, I started dating, like I couldn't express myself.
Yeah.
Only way I expressed myself was through spending money and sex, just because I couldn't process because it's been stifled for so long. Because my mom just tell us to do something, we do it. And that was it. You don't ask any questions. We really didn't have that space to where we can express how we feel or what's going on. So as I got older, in my first marriage, I can see where that played in my marriage because I
Yeah.
stonewall, like couldn't put the words
Shut
together.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, shut down, all that stuff, which wasn't fair to my ex-wife. And I was just like, oh, I see how this plays out now. So like you say, through journaling, therapy, and even just having healthy conversations like this, I think helps a lot too. So
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of men might struggle in that area with really saying how they feel.
I agree. I'm not a man, but I think a lot of women would agree with you. Because, I mean, women date men, so a woman who's dated a man might be able to attest to that for sure. And then, because, that'd be one of the questions when you go to the conferences. How do you get your husband to express himself? You know what I mean? So it is a real thing.
Yeah.
So I think understanding those things about the people we are dating helps us understand why they probably do certain things that they do and not taking it all personal.
Yeah, for sure. Because now my mom, she laughed at me. She's like, "You never talked growing up. Now here it is, you talking to everybody, you know." And I
You
wanted
say,
to
Mama,
tell
you
her,
didn't let me talk.
that's what
But
I'm
we're not
saying.
gonna
I
say
was
that.
like, I couldn't talk. I didn't have a microphone or nothing. I couldn't talk. So all the stuff I wanted to say, I'm saying on this podcast now. Thanks
There
to
you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes work to develop our voice and to find it. I think a lot of us can resonate. Like now, if you ask my kids, who create that safe space for them, I'm sure they have different conversations now because we prioritized it. But we still, as adults, haven't, or it takes work to develop your voice, and in a way that is proactive, and you become your best self advocate, but you also like can look beyond you and also see someone else, and learn that communication portion of it too. So yeah, very vital.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I had to learn, um, especially being married and doing this a second time. I was like, Sean, I need to get this together.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm glad you did your work.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
Happy for
still,
your wife too.
hey man, I'm still not done yet. Cause sometimes I'll be like, Sean, how you feeling right now, Sean? How are you feeling? I'm telling myself that because I want to do all
Yeah,
the times.
It's
that's
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm learning. Mental Dialogue says she turns you into an excellent podcaster. Uh, Dr. Elizabeth, can you tell us about some of your books that you have? Because I know you've written plenty of them. Can you tell us about some of the books that you have and which ones you think will be appropriate for those who might be watching or listening?
Yeah. So I did I spoke at a women's empowerment event, and my topic was the importance of forgiveness and self-love. And so when we talk about preparing for relationships and being in the right space, to me, the number one thing and component is forgiveness. So this is forgive and let that go, embracing the new you. And so just like what we talked about, like learning from a place of forgiving, healing, truly getting to know like who you are, and starting from there. Forgiveness is a very vital thing to have a successful relationships. Forgiving the past, forgiving what yourself, forgiving others, releasing that weight before you go into a relationship, because you're just going to bring that baggage with you. So some people, they want to, but they don't know how to. And so this is a very like coach related practical guide that I wrote. I actually went to South Africa and did my TEDx talk on this topic in regards to forgiveness. And I have done a 6 week class with men and women. And I've heard great testimonies from men and women who went through the process and really learned that they were able to heal things. Even being in marriages now, I can still do the work so that I can be better in my current situation as I'm moving forward. So that's one. And then another one that I do as a bundle with it is break free and take back your power. This one really relates to those of us who have low self-esteem because we spent so much of our time trying to seek like love and validation from our partner, or in relationships, as opposed to truly. And from this one, it's a spiritual guide. So it really teaches you, even within ourselves, sometimes we don't know our worth and value. So you really have to start with the creator and how he created you and how he loves you. And so when you really have scripture to show who you are and how, the creator sees you and how God validates you and how he pursues you, then you change, it changes the ball game. Like your standards in a positive way rises because you learn, this is who I am. And then you learn how to love yourself. And then you can share that love with others and have the right kind of love come back at you. And so that's where that's centered around, is taking back our power that we've lost from, the past hurts, disappointments, and really embracing the true love that we deserve.
I
So
love
those are two, and the other books that I have written have been youth centered. I do a lot of work with youth also, so I've written books with my children. We have an online bookstore called Books Are Fire, where we have all 14 of our resources. We have classes that we teach for youth and adults on the books and workshops, just so that people know you might have a book, but some people really need the practical group application, talking through it to really be accountable, and to really understand it. And so some people are independent learners, some people learn better in groups. So we just try to provide a community of healing, and embracing life, love, and living.
it.
That's good.
Love it.
Those
Thank
are
you.
awesome. Those
Love
are
it.
awesome.
And before we go, one last question. Someone they say, how can I can't pronounce their name. I don't want to mess it up. Says, Dr. Elizabeth, how can I teach my spouse about forgiveness? He brings up issues from his childhood.
Yeah, so get the book,
Hmm.
and then it teaches you through. But just in general, I think it's important to kind of go back to understanding like the root of communication. In order to truly understand what someone else is going through, you have to truly like understand who that person is and how to relate. What's the best environment for that conversation to happen? Are you the right person? It may be necessary to bring, a counselor or professional in. So really being able to assess how deep it is. We would love to be that person for our spouse, but it may not be us. They may need to start that process in a more neutral place and with a more neutral person. And so even by diving, to me, like when you read the book, you understand the process of forgiveness more. And then by that, you're able to get more techniques and tips on what are some options. Am I the right person? Is there another, safe space? And for me to not feel like shunned or bad because that person may need someone else. If that's how their help is coming, be open to that. Like see it on that side of it, as far as the whole picture, and not personalizing if the person isn't talking to me, or I'm not the one that's going to be their savior. That's not who you were meant to be. You're just going to provide the tools because the work has to be done by them ultimately for that healing to happen.
That's good. And I'm so glad you said that because I think it's easy for us to assume that because we are the person that our person loves and chooses, that we're going to be the catalyst for change in many areas of their life that we may not be.
Yeah.
And I did a video that actually people, it went crazy, was when I was like sharing what my mama said, when I remember when I was younger, and I was like, Mom, one day I was telling her, I was like, Mom, it's just like crazy that I'll tell him something and then somebody else come and tell him the same thing. And then all of a sudden it's like he got this bright idea. And she said, who does that sound like? Because a parent can feel the same way about their children.
Yes.
But my mom was saying, the Bible says, Aquila, one sows and one person waters, but God brings the increase. You may not, you ain't the increase all the time, honey. You ain't the water. I mean, you not the water all the time. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to know that sometimes the voice that creates change may not be yours. And she told me, she said, but what I did was she said, I used to feel the same way you did. She was like, not just with, being married, but with my children. She said, but I had to realize that ultimately I just want you to get it. So
Yeah.
my prayer changed to, Lord, I don't care who give it to them and how they receive it. I just want them to receive whatever that is that was beneficial for their life. So I think that is so good that you said that, because you believe it or not, you release a burden that we sometimes are bearing because we're like, well, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
Especially when you care, we want to find a way to help our person or help the people we care about. So I think it's good that you said, look at that process so
Yeah.
we can evaluate this properly
Yeah.
and probably remove ourselves from the responsibility that we've placed on ourselves to make sure that they get this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good episode, Laquila. I remember you posting that. My wife and I had a whole conversation about that. And like you say, as long as you get it somehow.
Yeah.
Because my wife knows, I'll be like, you know what? I was listening to this podcast the other day. And they said thank you for answering the
Thank you.
question.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, yeah, I told you that 2 years ago. I'm like, yeah.
Tell her I understand. Dr. Jennings just gave us the whole, she just gave us a good, soft reality check for that in a good way. You know what I mean?
For
Without
sure.
telling us to mind our business, she told us to mind our business. You know what I mean?
For sure. This has been a phenomenal episode. Dr. Elizabeth, let everyone know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah. So on social media platforms, Remember You Matter Coaching is how you can kind of connect with me. And then if you just want more information about my services, I do coach. It's rememberyoumattercoaching.com. And then where our books are located is booksaretfire.com. And you can see our resources there. So thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
It's
Awesome.
been a pleasure having you.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
I
I've
done followed
enjoyed the
you on the
conversation.
I done followed you on the IG already. I'm gonna go
Awesome. I
check.
will follow you back. I've
I'm gonna try
enjoyed
to
the
see.
conversation. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
I haven't, like, I've been so youth minded, so it was really nice to have the invitation because I am like shifting back to just conversations and just love kind of helping others through this space. So thank you for the invite also.
Oh yeah, for sure. Continue to impact those you've been
Yeah.
entrusted with. I mean, like I say, I was blown away by what you've created, what you've done. So thanks again for taking some time to be a guest. Aquila, let everyone know how they can get in touch with you.
Aquila Maddox on Facebook and Instagram. And I know we talk about this TikTok. I told you we got this love-hate relationship right now, me and TikTok, but Aquila Maddox or Coach Q or the Inspirationalist. Those are the ways to find me.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I know you got your TikTok back, so but that's
It took
another.
me a minute, y'all. So that's why I had this love-hate relationship. I got a new phone and I was kicked out.
Oh no.
Yeah, for sure. TikTok is back. All right, everyone. Well, make sure you hit the subscribe button, share this with someone you never know who need it. As I said, make sure you share it in your group chat because I know you have 3 or 4 of your best friends in the group chat. That's where you put this video in the group chat, and then y'all talk about it later. And also, if you are listening to this video podcast, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Would love to hear from you. By doing so, put you in a drawing for a free Amazon gift card. Who doesn't like free stuff? I love everyone who's taken time to actually just, say how they really feel about the podcast. I love it. Appreciate the feedback. So this is Sean Heineman, and with my co-host
Aquila Maddox.
and my special guest.
Elizabeth Jennings.
All right, Brave Hearts community, take care.